Okay, it's come time to talk about the worst part of any InDesign project, which is printing. It's always a disappointment to go from the cool thing you think you designed to the printer, because the printers are not always calibrated the same way as your screen, and there are a lot of different variables. So it's really complex. I'm going to try and show you the simplest way to do it, and then I'm going to try to show you some workarounds. So hopefully you'll be able to watch half this tutorial, print it, stop, and then you'll be set. But if not, we'll have some other ideas. So if you look at your your project, you got it all set up the way you want. This is going to be I want this to be my front cover, this to be the back cover. But if I just print these things out individually now, they're not going to line up front to back. And so there's a way that I can get this to work a little more effectively. If I go in here and go to File, different kinds of things you can look at here. The first one is your print. So if you just print it, it's like a normal print, but we actually want to go to the print booklet. So you click on the print booklet button, and this is where things kind of get complex. So don't stress, just try to follow the instructions. If you look at our preview, you'll see what it looks like. If you have the wrong page size set up, you'll see, oh, it's trying to print it on the wrong page size. So I like to leave the preview clicked, and if you just go in here to print settings, what we want to do is we want to select the best printer. So we want to actually select secure print if you're printing from the lab at SPU. And you can see here that there are all these options, right? And so if I click secure print, you can see I've got all of these things in here. If I just click through them, you just want to click through and make sure they're set up right. Like you want to make sure it's set on letter. You want to make sure the orientation is landscape. You don't want to change the scale. We want to make sure our page position is centered so that all the pages are centered in the middle of the page, right? We want to do all that. We want to go to marks and bleed, and we want to make sure we have the crop marks checked, because the crop marks are going to show us where to cut this thing down so we can assemble it all together. You can go to output if you want to and check some of that stuff. That's more complicated. You can also go in here to graphics. There's all these things, but the other one you might want to look at is color management. So if you kick it out the first time of the printer and it looks crummy, one thing you can do is try to figure out how to adjust your printer profile. So there are all these printer profiles that you can adjust and select here. So sometimes, something like this is better. So maybe you want to try, a Photoshop 5 CMYK default. So that might print a little bit better. You can also go to the PostScript and let the printer determine the colors if you want to try that. So these are all, again, things you can play with as you're troubleshooting and going through. So once you get to the bottom, you'll see this is your summary, right? And it tells you everything that's going on with your image, with your file. So once we get it all set and we're sure everything is right, you just click OK here, and that's going to adjust the preview that you see and your setup and all that kind of thing as well. And it'll show you the summary. So again, if we look at all of this, you have all of these different sort of, options, and we want to make sure we have 2-up saddle stitch selected, because that's going to give us the pages on the right way. And then you can also go to print settings here and just go to printer. And so again, we're like 3 layers into menus now, but if you click here, you can see you've got secure print selected and you have two-sided selected. So we want to make sure we have two-sided selected for that. So if you click print, you're going to want to add it to the printer, and then everything is just click through all of these and go to print, and it'll send it, and it'll be done. So with any luck, you'll swipe your card, those things will print out, and you'll be in good shape. Remember, if you want to print on special paper, I have another tutorial after this one for that. That's the hope. Sometimes these things get a little sideways on us, right? Sometimes things don't work out quite the way we want. So this is the workaround part of this tutorial now. So remember that InDesign is assembling all of this stuff for you, and if you ever just get stuck and you're so frustrated, you want to cry and you can't get it to do things you want, you can always just go here to File, Export, and you'll see there are all these different options for what you can export this thing out as. So if you want to, you can just export the whole thing out as an Adobe PDF, and just select a spot like your desktop and just send it there. And it'll ask you a lot of the same questions that we got for the last one. You've got compression, questions, marks and bleeds, you know, so maybe you want to go ahead and put the crop marks in there. It'll ask you about color conversion, all of that. So it's going to convert this from a just an InDesign file that you're trying to print to a PDF. So let's try that, and let's just see how that works. It's telling me there's overset text on 2 pages. That means the text is outside of the edge of the box. That's okay for what I'm doing here. And it's also telling me I'm missing a font, which is something you want to watch. If you use a weird typeface that isn't easily accessible, you might want to go ahead and go in and make the type outlines. So I think that's covered in an earlier tutorial. So sometimes that happens, or you might want to import the right font, but it's always good to just make your type outlines if there's any doubt about it at all. You can click the Find Font if you want to see if you can track that typeface down. And just click OK. So if we go down to our desktop and we open this thing up, we now have a you know, sort of a you know, we've got our pages all set up, and they're just as individual pages, right? So at least you got something out of this thing that you can maybe use somehow. The other sort of technique that you can go into if you want to is you can go in here and go, and this is sort of uber advanced, but you can go to File, Export, and remember when you go to export, there are also all these other options like a JPEG and things like that that you can play around with. So you can export them as JPEGs and then, you know, print them out individually if that's just the only way you can make this thing work. Because this is going to take everything we see here and make it into a JPEG. High resolution JPEG will print fine. And the other one is to go in here and go to File, Print Booklet, and go up where it says, you know, we're going to keep all of this stuff the same, but we're going to go to Print Settings, and where it asks me which printer I'm going to use, I'm going to go to PostScript File. So PostScript File is the one that's set up to, you know, print on the Sharp printer, which is, you know, you have these different printers that are available. But it's basically going to translate this into computer language, and you can go through all of this stuff and just check on all the same things, right? So you can go through, you know, check all the setup, make sure everything is right, make sure the page is centered, click OK, and then just click Print, and it's going to export this thing out for you to your desktop, and going to ask us some of the same questions. Click OK. It's going to kind of just download the whole thing. So now if we go there, we're going to see, oh, I have my PostScript file, and PostScript's kind of a weird language, but if you click on this, it'll open it up in preview, and it'll allow you to kind of see, oh, at least I've got my front and my back are on the same page, and then this is, you know, supposed to be the next page that'll print on top of that. So that could be that's got you somewhere, and you can print from preview. Go to File and Print, and that helps sometimes. But what I'm going to suggest you do, this is again kind of an advanced thing, is I'm going to suggest you just drag this thing down to your Adobe Acrobat, or just open it up in Adobe Acrobat Pro. And it'll take a second, but it'll open it up. And of Acrobat, just it for some reason we can print double-sided much more easily from Acrobat in the labs than we can from InDesign or the preview or any of that stuff. So if you just click File, Print again, it's going to bring up another dialog box for us. And you know, we're going to want to make sure that we have everything sort of the right size and make sure it fits and all that kind of stuff on our on there. And we're going to want to try to make sure that we have, you know, we've gone through all of we're selecting the right printer, so maybe this printer is a better one, depending on how you guys have your thing set up. And we're going to want to sort of, you know, just go through and go to Fit, Print on both sides of the paper is the button that we want to select, and you want to flip it on the short edge. So you want it to flip on the side here, not so you don't want them reversed. And you know, you can go in here and go to Page Setup if you want to, and select the right size paper. So maybe for this one I would do legal paper. Click OK here. Again, there's a lot of you know, there's a lot of different options, and you can see that it's not quite centered, which is a bit of a drag, right? So sometimes that can be like a bit of a problem because they're not going to print out perfectly. So you want to sort of watch that. But there's a lot of options that you can click on here that'll sort of change things around. You know, there's also a booklet button here, but you don't really want to mess with that at this point. So once we get all that done, you can try sending it to the printer, and we can see how it goes. And go to the printer, and it'll print it on both sides at least, but they may not line up perfectly, and you might have to make some adjustments. So that's it. Hopefully things will work perfectly from InDesign for you. We'll keep troubleshooting this as we go throughout the the quarter, and see if we can sort all of the problems out. But just kind of keep in mind that that this is always the part that's sort of gets everybody, and you really want to make sure that you are getting a head start on this, not waiting until the very end of the project, not waiting till the last minute to try to get all of this set up, because if you do, you're going to end up spending a lot of time really frustrated and spending all of your printer money basically trying to sort all of this out. So that's my advice for printing. We'll keep sorting and troubleshooting, but I hope that helps somewhat.